Hello listeners and viewers. Welcome to Kaduna State Ministry of Education Radio and TV e-learning program designed for our SS3 and other students staying at home due to the coronavirus pandemic. The present administration, under the able leadership of His Excellency, Malam Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai, is positioned, as always, to ensure that under his leadership, our students are not left behind in all areas of human endeavors, especially education. Kaduna State is the center of learning. Therefore, we want to ensure that our students excel in their forthcoming examinations and beyond. Students and other learners at home are given this opportunity in order to continue learning, as education is a continuous process. Different subjects will be taught in this program to assist students to perform excellently in the forthcoming Senior School Certificate examination being conducted by NECO and WAEC as soon as schools reopen. Teachers making presentations will always provide their names and phone numbers during each presentation, and they can be contacted for questions, further explanations, and/or clarifications. The following numbers and contacts can also be reached for expression of any concern or observation: 090-865-00545 or 080-383-62072. Our website is www.education.kdsg.gov.ng. Our email education@kdsg.gov.ng or education.kdsg@gmail.com. Our YouTube channel, Ministry of Education, Kaduna State. Our Twitter handle @Kaduna_MOE. Or our Facebook page, Ministry of Education, Kaduna State. Stay safe, stay at home, and learn well. Thank you, happy listening, and happy viewing.
Hello learners, you are most welcome to yet another segment of e-learning. I'm going to take you in the subject Christian Religious Studies. My name is Asebe David Ndagjana. We are going to look at the topic King Saul's disobedience and consequences. And we have text that we are going to get this story. Our text is from the book of 1 Samuel chapter 15 from verse 1 to 19. 1 Samuel chapter 15 from verse 20 to 25. Chapter 16 from verse 14 to 23. And chapter 31 from verse 1 to 13. First of all, we are going to discuss we are going to define what disobedience means. Disobedience means refusal to carry out an order, rebellion against constituted authority, or deliberate failure to discharge an assignment in line with stipulated rules. For example, now is rainy season. If you are asked by your parents to weed the surrounding of your house and you fail to, or even if you happen to say, okay, Daddy, I will do it, and you still did not do it, that act is considered an act of disobedience. Anything you are asked to do and you fail to do it, that is an act of disobedience. And your parents or whoever that must have asked you to do that thing and you refuse to do it will not be happy. Even God himself will not be happy, because we are all children of God and God wants us to be obedient. Now, having said that, let us look at consequence. What is it? That which follows something on which it depends, that which is produced by a cause, a result of actions, or chain of causes and effects. The aftermath of a thing. Now, let us look at the life of Saul. Saul was a man. The early life of Saul was that he was the son of Kish, and he was chosen by God to be the king of Israel. Now, if we look at the life of Saul, we have two men in the Bible that are bearing this same name. We have one in the Old Testament and one in the New Testament. The one in the Old Testament is what we are going to discuss today. He was a king. And the one in the New Testament was formerly known as Saul, but when he was converted to Christianity, he started bearing Paul. And Paul was the great writer of the New Testament. But how did he live his life? Now, students, you have to be very, very careful with these two names. They are two different individuals. So by the time a question is asked on any of them, you have to be very, very careful. Is the question addressing that of the Old Testament or the New Testament? You have to look at it critically. Don't just jump into answering a question because you have seen the name Saul. Now, you tend to see that if questions on these two individuals are asked, the examiners know critically that you people might make mistakes. So they are equally careful in asking these questions. So these questions usually address the activity of such a person. And that is why you need to be very, very careful. So the Saul that we are going to talk about today was the son of Kish. He had other brothers. Now, how did he come to power? You tend to see that the Israelites were ruled by priests and prophets. But at the time, they felt disappointed. What happened? Now, here was this priest. If you can remember the story of Samuel, who was called in the temple while Eli was a priest. He was called by God, but Samuel never knew that it was God that was calling him. So he kept running to the priest, that was Eli. And Eli told him that he was not the one calling him. Until the third time, Eli now realized that it was God that was calling this boy. So what happened? He told him that when you hear the call again, you should say, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is hearing." Now, as Saul, as he grew up, when Samuel grew up, he remained in the temple as promised by his parents. He remained in the temple and was serving God. He got married and gave birth to children known as Joel and Abijah. Now, Saul was growing old, so automatically his children were to live after him as priests. But the lives of these children were not worth being priests. So what happened? The Israelites now gathered at Ramah and confronted Samuel, that he should give them a king. They needed a king just like any other nation. Now, God told Samuel, because Samuel felt he was not on his own. So what did he do? He told God what the Israelites were asking him of. And God told him that he should tell the Israelites they should not demand for an earthly king. But they persisted. And at the end of it, God told Samuel that he should give the Israelites what they were demanding. And so, God now directed Samuel the priest to go to the house of Kish and select a king for the Israelites. Now, on reaching the house of Kish, Samuel saw Eliab, the firstborn of Kish, and he felt he was the one. Why? Because Eliab was wonderful. He was not ugly, he was well built. And so Samuel saw the facial appearance and he felt, that was the man. But God was not after facial appearance, but the inward appearance. So God told him no. So at the end of it, when he brought his other sons, at the end of it, Saul was picked as the first king of Israel. Now, Saul in his lifetime disobeyed God. What happened? What did he do that was considered an act of disobedience? Now, God directed or instructed Samuel that he should go and tell Saul, who was the first king of Israel, to go to the city of Amalek and destroy everything there. Why that instruction? Now you tend to see that by the time the Israelites were coming out of the land of Egypt, the Amalekites were a threat to the people of Israel. They disturbed their peace. They never wanted to relate with them. So the Israelites never had it easy with the Amalekites. For that reason, God told Samuel that he should go and tell Saul to destroy everything in the city of Amalek. Now, we are discussing about the disobedience. But before Saul disobeyed God, he mobilized his army quite all right and went. But by the time he went to the city of Amalek, there was this tribe in the city of Amalek, the Canaanites. Saul decided to remove them. He told them to go away, to go out of the city of Amalek before the destruction. And Saul went ahead and did the destruction quite all right. But, you see, this was where Saul disobeyed God. How? Now, instead of destroying everybody in the city, Saul spared the life of the king, who was Agag. Now, in writing an exam pertaining this issue, if you happen to forget the name of, Agag, the king of Amalek, by the time you are able to mention that Saul spared the life of the king of Amalek, it's okay. But if you can remember, and even the spelling is good. So Saul spared the life of the king of Amalek, which was not the instruction given to him. Now, secondly, Saul, on his own again, decided to pick some fat animals and anything that was looking good to him. He picked them and they left. On reaching home, Samuel, who knew that Saul must have been back by now, went to find out whether the assignment has been concluded. And as he went, he could hear the bleating of animals at the backyard of Saul. So he decided to ask, "What am I hearing? Why the bleating of animals at your backyard?" In answering, Saul told Samuel that he brought those animals to sacrifice to Samuel's God. Was that the instruction? No. God was not demanding him to make any sacrifice. The instruction was that he should go and destroy it. But on his own, he was so stingy, he was so greedy, and he decided to spare the life of the king and brought some fat animals, and not only that, anything that was looking good on his side, he picked. Now, Samuel was annoyed. Samuel was not happy with what King Saul did. That was an act of disobedience. So for that reason, Saul was not left unpunished. Just like you offend your parents at home or even in the school. When punishments are meted to you, you feel bad. Now you tend to see that whoever that punishes you loves you, because that person does not want a repeat of that disobedience or of that act. So we keep correcting you. And even in your marital homes, we keep correcting as parents. So don't look at corrections to be hatred. Now, Saul was punished by God. And that is taking us now to the consequence of Saul's disobedience. Number one, because Saul rejected the word of God through Samuel, God also rejected Saul as the king of Israel. Now, even at home, you students, by the time you disobey your parents and you see their reaction, automatically you know that you are already attracting some kind of punishment on you. So you try to find your way. So no sin should be left unpunished. Why? Because corrections have to be made to make us behave well. Now, Samuel was punished by God. How? He was rejected. Since he refused to obey the instructions of God through his servant, Saul was rejected by God himself. And if God should reject somebody, automatically you are done with. Everybody will not like you. So Saul was rejected by God as the king of Israel. The second punishment was that David was anointed as the successor of Saul while Saul, was still alive. You know, it's not done that way. You cannot be the head boy of a school and somebody is being appointed to succeed you while you've not even graduated. You know, it's a slap on your face. But except if such a thing is done to you, something must have gone wrong. So in the case of Saul, because he disobeyed God, David, a small boy, was anointed as the king of Israel. And who did the anointment? It was Samuel the priest. And Samuel the priest did not just go on his own and say, since Saul has disobeyed God, let me choose another leader. No. Samuel was directed by God to go and anoint David to succeed King Saul. Now, the next punishment was that the Spirit of God left Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord tormented him. Saul was being tormented by an evil spirit, and that was the hand of God upon him. Saul was behaving like a madman. He was not psychologically balanced. So his attendants in the palace felt they cannot leave Saul like that. How can they see the king of Israel behaving this way? So they wanted a solution to that serious problem. What was the solution? What did they do to help Saul at this level? So what they did was that they met and decided that they should be able to look around the kingdom of Israel and pick somebody that is skillful in playing musical instruments, that is lyre. And they look around, and there was nobody to do that except David. Now, David was chosen to come and play the musical instrument. What for? So that the musical instrument will suit the heart of Saul. Now, there are times when you hear the sound of music and the lyrics are good to your hearing. What happens? You will not know the time you have started nodding your head. In fact, if care is not taken, you will start dancing. Why? Because you are enjoying the music. So, for Saul to be at that level or stage of life, the attendants of his palace decided to pick somebody